knowing that small businesses are what makes our community unique.
Right.
We wouldn't be Topeka without them.
Printer.
Right. Yeah.
It's here.
Yeah.
Wow.
3D homes
That's wild.
are here. What?
It is,
Are you kidding?
How is it different from Applebee's?
We've got a fight on the
way
side.
better
breakfast
than
Applebee's.
I don't
How
even
is
I want to see Topekans believe in themselves more.
This podcast was brought to you by Choose Topeka. If you're thinking about making a move, Choose Topeka can get you up to $15,000 to relocate.
Whether you're buying or renting, Topeka and Shawnee County are ready to welcome you. Apply now at choosetopeka.com.
All right. India Yarborough, owner, founder of Local Lens PR, the only, not one of the best, the only and best
Wow.
PR firm in Topeka. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. This is
Let's
an
go.
honor. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. India, tell us a little bit about you, how you got to Topeka, what you're doing now. What brought you here?
Yeah. Well, so back in 2019 is when I moved to Topeka.
Let's go.
So not a Topeka
Transplant.
native, transplant, absolutely. There are some great transplants in the area.
That's
We're
right.
looking at
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
We moved to Topeka in the same summer.
Yeah,
Let's
we
go.
were just talking about that. That's amazing. So summer 2019 is when I started at the Topeka Capital Journal. And that's really the job that brought me here. So I am from Mississippi originally, went to college in New Orleans, studied journalism and sociology, and was applying for newspaper gigs kind of really all over the country my senior year. And just, it was one of those random jobs you find online, right? So I was like,
Right.
okay, put my application in at the Topeka Capital Journal newspaper in Topeka, Kansas. Never visited Kansas before.
Nice.
And thought,
Let's go.
let's give it a shot. And funny enough, they offered me the best job at the time.
Come on.
And I accepted that job the day before I graduated.
Yeah.
Again, having never visited Kansas before, so total leap of faith. But
How nervous were you about moving?
So nervous.
Wow.
So nervous. I had traveled outside of the Southeast, but had never lived anywhere outside of the Southeast before. So wasn't quite sure what to expect. But in hindsight, like it was meant to be. Like I've been here for 6 years now. Didn't know that was going to happen at the time either. Thought maybe, 2-3 years here and then we'll see what's next kind of thing. But after a couple years passed, I was not ready to leave Topeka. This community just really grew on me. And I thought I've got more work to do here.
What were you thinking? Coming from New Orleans to not what were you thinking? Like why? No, but like what was your thought process on Topeka, Kansas? Were you like, I have no idea what this is? Did you have some some thoughts already, or what was your thoughts about coming here?
I really had no preconceptions, honestly. I had a journalism professor who told me that starting out in this industry, you can either choose the job you want or the location you want, but you can't choose both.
Oh, yeah.
And so I thought, okay, I know the job I want. I want to
Right.
be a reporter. I want to write for a newspaper. So I guess I got to be open to location. And
Okay.
so
Wow.
I very much kind of applied to jobs with that in mind and thought, all right, we're just going to cast our net wide. We're going to see, what comes back. And I had gotten a couple offers, but this one was the best deal.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I thought I was doing the demographic research and looking
Right,
up the
yeah.
community and all that stuff with my parents too. And
Cool.
they, because we were all talking about it and, they had never spent time in Kansas really. And I was like, I know this sounds crazy and I know it sounds like a total leap of faith, but I can't come up with a good reason not to.
Right.
And so I was like, I think this is meant to be. Like, I think
Come
I
on.
need to do this.
Unfortunately,
Wow.
when she was doing her research, Topeka Insider didn't exist yet.
Yeah.
Right.
She would have came across our
If
landing
only I
page
had
on why to
known.
move to Topeka.
Yeah, and it would have been a no-brainer.
That's right. Wait, so the question that I think some of the locals who grew up here, I think that they would immediately want to ask you saying, when you say, hey, I thought I'd be here for 2 to 3 years and then I moved, but then it grew on me, I stayed. I think the question a lot of locals would ask, why? Why would you stay? Like a lot of locals have a hard time seeing the value of like, what's going on here? Like what attracted you to stay and put roots?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I grew up in a community of about 25,000. And then, of course, in New Orleans, it's closer to 400,000. And so for
It's
me,
only that big.
Yeah, well, it lost population after Katrina, so it did decline some after that. But for me, you know, Topeka was kind of right in the middle. It was that perfect small city sort of size and vibe. And when I remember moving here, and I cannot count the number of times someone told me this is the biggest small town you're ever going to live in, and that was actually really attractive to me. You know, having come from a smaller community, not the smallest community. I recognize there are a lot smaller places to be, but having come from a town and you know, going to New Orleans, it was just right in the middle, and it was perfect. You know, it was big enough to have things to do, but small enough to really get to know your neighbors and get to know the people who you were going to run into on a daily basis. And so I would say the size was really attractive. The community, I mean, the people were really, it really kept me here as well, and were a complete draw. And I will say, like, there are some hidden gems in Topeka. Like I'm someone who, when I move to a place or go to a place for the first time, like I like to force myself to get out and try new things. And
absolutely.
I will say, like, being a reporter too, that is a great way to get to know a community because you are going everywhere for stories. You know, you're interviewing completely random people who you're meeting for the first time.
What are some of the hidden gems of Topeka?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate the green spaces that we have here in Topeka.
Yeah.
So love Gage Park.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, Noto is such a beautiful place too. A lot of the small businesses as well. You know, Jong's Thai is one of my absolute favorites. I have had Thai food in LA, and Jong's is still better.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So
they're the only place that has turned us down for an interview.
Are you serious?
Thai Kitchen.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
batting.
So we're like,
Gabe, what episode is this?
please.
22?
Respond back and tell us you'll be
We are
on here.
22 for 23.
Oh my gosh.
This is episode 22.
Yeah.
You know,
Only
it'll
one
happen
rejection.
when it's meant to happen,
Yeah,
right?
That's right.
Yeah.
We did connect with someone who knows them, so we're trying to work an angle there.
Nice.
We even
nice.
thought about just like bringing our stuff and just ordering food and just, hey, you're on it. You know, we're doing
just,
an
like,
episode
set up
live.
in the park across the street with your mics and like wander over.
No. We would get like a reservation at a table and be like, hey, while you're here to get our drink orders, sit down for a second. Just like give us 30 seconds to answer some questions.
Yeah. But okay, Jong's, any others, hidden gems? I guess I'm a Topeka guy. I've grown up here, you know, my entire life. And so I don't know what the hidden gems are because they're not hidden.
Yeah,
And
that's
It's
a
like
good point.
hidden in plain sight.
Right.
You
It's
forget.
like,
That's a good point.
you say Jong's is great. It's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I've heard they're great. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, I've only been here for 6 years, but I don't feel like anything's hidden to me really either anymore, you know, because I was so intentional starting off the bat that I was like, I've got to get out. I've got to meet people. I've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Otherwise, I'm not going to get to know this community like I need to.
That's a great
to really
attitude
like
to
report
have.
on it well, you know? And so, so I will say just being able to like be in that profession, I think really drove my interest off the bat. And then as I got to know things a little bit better, I was like, there's so much to love here. Like, why are people hating on this community?
Yep. So you started at the Capital Journal, but you're not there now.
No.
What happened? Where are we going?
Yeah.
Where are we at now? Was there an in-between?
Absolutely. So I was at the Capital Journal for about 2.5 years. And then I was really just starting to ask myself, you know, do I see myself in journalism long term? Is this reporter profession for me? And I let me be clear, like I have so much respect for reporters. I think journalism is such a necessary industry. It's I mean, it's so important to have people telling those stories and reporting from the ground and keeping our communities informed. Because I think, you know, our engagement in society, our civic engagement, our you know, community engagement, it's a direct reflection of the information we consume and the messages we receive. So I think journalism is so essential. But I did that for about 2.5 years and just wasn't sure that I was meant to do that long term. And so I was starting to ask myself some of those hard questions and, you know, what's next? And around that time, you know, having worked at the paper, I was telling stories about the chamber and, you know, writing about the partnership news. Got to tell some other stories too that I think really did make an impact in the community. But I was interviewing some of those people who would become my coworkers next. So
cool.
And so had gotten connected with Bob Ross over at the partnership. And
Not the painter.
Remember having a
Not the
conversation with
painter.
him. Not the painter. Yep. Actually, funny enough, his email, like his photo on his email, is a picture of Bob Ross because I think people were giving him enough, like you know,
Some happy
enough teasing
trees.
about that over the years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's funny, but
You should start an what is it, ASMR? Like these are some happy trees.
I think that would go far.
that would be awesome.
That would.
He's got kind of a soothing voice too. Like
Yeah.
like Topeka's Bob Ross.
Right?
He's got a great voice.
Topeka's Bob Ross.
Yeah.
So yeah, had gotten connected with him, and around the time I was looking to make a move of some sort, the communications manager position at the partnership opened up, and so I applied for that and became part of the team. So I moved over to the partnership, and I was there for 3 years, 3 months, I think is the timing there. And I, over my time there, I mean, had the opportunity to do some amazing things and really help tell Topeka's story, which I think was a cool side of the aisle to be on. So I went from, telling the story of Topekans to telling Topeka's story as a whole. And that was really impactful for me. So I went from, communications manager to communications director. And by the time I left, I was VP of marketing communications there, which was such a win. Yeah.
Let's go. That's awesome.
So that was awesome. And I guess another kind of one of those moments of, am I meant to do this long term? Is this where I see myself in the years to come? And I was just starting to realize that there was kind of a gap in the local market when it comes to communications and storytelling. Well, I guess let me rewind for a second, because when I was at the newspaper, I was telling some really cool stories. I mean, like I mentioned, the partnership, the chamber news, but then also like covering public meetings. I remember getting to report on, an investor takeover of our local utility company. I wrote a story about an out-of-state landlord that was really had a history of property neglect and property abuse. And I think that story has helped, spark some conversations locally about how the community addresses that. So really thankful for that. But my favorite stories to tell are really the stories of small business owners, and I cannot count the number of times I would go to report on one of their stories and just be talking with them, interviewing them, having that conversation. And at some point during it, they would say, thank you so much for telling this story. You're the first person to ever reach out to us.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuck with me, knowing that small businesses are what makes our community unique. We wouldn't be Topeka without them. So I kind of kept that in mind. And then working for the partnership, I also can't count the number of times that a nonprofit or community group would reach out to us saying, hey, can you help us spread the word about this thing? And to be honest with you, I think as much as we wanted to help, it wasn't always within our bandwidth or purview to tackle that thing for them. And so I just started to identify, like, there's a need here. There's a gap here when it comes to public relations, when it comes to communications, specifically for small businesses and nonprofits. I started to kind of look at like the PR landscape more broadly. And, there's a lot of public relations activity on the coasts in larger cities. Kansas City has several PR firms, but Topeka didn't have a PR firm. And so I thought, what if I did that? What if I opened Topeka's first public relations firm and really tried to do things differently by not serving the big guys? I mean, the big guys, the corporations, they can hire anybody across the country. They've got the budgets to do that. They understand the value of PR, so they know what they're after. The small businesses, the nonprofits, it's a lot of trying to help them understand what public relations is, and so it's not easy. It's very challenging in a lot of ways, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm glad I did this. And so in February of this year, after having gone through Omni Circle's Emerge Community Business Academy too, which was really important for me. But I decided to step out and launch my own public relations firm. So that's where I am now.
And that's called
Local Lens PR.
Local Lens, yeah.
Cool.
And even the name was intentional. So
yeah. Did Gabe do a promo video for you at Omni Circle?
Of course he did. Of course he did.
He did a great job.
For those that don't know, Gabe does some video stuff with Omni Circle. So that's very cool connection.
And Omni has been, so impactful to my growth and being able to launch this too. I mean, really, I office out of the space now.
Cool.
They were one of my first clients. So, they do incredible work on the personal development side, on the professional development side, helping people feel confident enough to step out and start a business. So I don't think I'd be doing this today without him.
Yeah, we had Michael on.
Yeah.
Gosh, it feels like forever ago. He was like our 5th or 6th episode.
Yeah.
So, that was great getting to know him. Okay, so I'm a marketing guy. And I'm still struggling to understand.
I was about to ask the same thing. Yeah.
What is a PR firm and as it relates to Topeka local businesses.
And what's the difference between PR and marketing?
Yeah, because when I think of a PR firm, I think of a PR firm is there when a pro baseball player gets in a car wreck and they're there to write the
crisis
or there's a scandal or something. Yeah,
It's like, how are we going to handle this? That way that guy doesn't look like a jack-o'-lantern. But so, okay, what are you doing?
And that's an element of PR, right? Crisis communications. That's what that is.
Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, I get this question all the time, actually. Like, what's the difference between marketing and public relations? And it can be kind of confusing because the tools you use to communicate in those realms are similar. Like social media, for instance.
Right.
You can use social media for marketing. You can use it for public relations too. And so the way I kind of think about it and try to describe it is marketing is at the end of the day, marketing is really about promoting a product in order to drive sales, drive revenue, and grow your business in that way. Public relations is really about communicating about your business a little bit more holistically. So you're talking about the impact you make, the people you employ, the causes you support and care about as an organization. And you might share a little bit about the product too, but it's really not focused on the product. It's focused on who are you as a business,
like
as an
people's
organization.
impression of you.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really that relationship part in public relations, right? And so PR is really about kind of communicating strategically, communicating holistically about your business to inspire trust, ultimately. You're really trying to communicate about your business in a way that builds relationships with the people who you may come into contact with and who you may serve in the long run. So what does that look like as far as services, right? So I offer media pitching. So I try to connect my clients with local and regional media outlets, press release writing, general media relations. So kind of being that go-between, that liaison between the client and the media partners in our area. And I also, just given my background, do some general copywriting and communication strategy consulting. What is the best way to communicate about what you're doing, the impact you're making, and that sort of thing. So,
and that some of that involves social media and things like that.
Yeah. So some social media, I don't formally offer social media management,
right?
But who knows? We'll see.
Yeah.
So it's
kind of a beast.
Yeah.
Public relations what you do sounds a whole lot like your job is helping them create a brand.
Absolutely. So I, there is at least one other business in the community that does branding in particular. And I think our services kind of are like this timeline. So you start with the branding and then you need public relations next. And then once you have your product, you have what you're selling, then that's really where marketing comes into play. And so I like to describe public relations as really giving your brand a voice. And as it pertains to small businesses and nonprofits, I am helping local nonprofits and local small businesses really find their voice and communicate more effectively with their community at large.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, dang.
Hopefully that cleared it up. Did that answer the question?
It absolutely did. I guess I've just always, in my line of work, my marketing is PR. I feel like I guess in real estate, having a billboard with your name and face on it, like.
That's a good point.
That's not really going to get you a ton of business because everyone knows 4 realtors. Yeah, my job is how can I elevate my brand and be in front of people I know and let them know me better.
Yeah.
In a sense. So I guess that was my confusion is I don't view marketing the same just because of the industry I'm in. That's basically what I do.
Yeah.
I feel like.
And there is some overlap just kind of naturally there, right?
Yeah.
Which I think does make it difficult to kind of pinpoint, what is the difference and that kind of thing. But there are some distinctions, and I think that makes what I'm doing very valuable for people. Because I'm not trying to duplicate what great marketing firms in the area are already doing. In fact, I'm actually working with some of those marketing firms. I'm doing some subcontracting work with Compass Marketing. Cohort Digital is actually a recent client of mine. So I am able to kind of partner with marketing firms to, I think together we can offer something much more comprehensive.
Right.
To
it makes sense.
clients.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes sense if you're both kind of pieces of the puzzle, making sure you're not doing each other's jobs and that the whole thing is covered. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So what kind of clients are you working with now? Your heart was to do like small businesses and nonprofits and things. Yeah. What are some of the clients that you're working with today?
If you can tell us.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I'm glad you asked because I love talking about my clients because they are the reason I do what I do. Great question. So Omni Circle Group was actually one of my first clients,
Yes. Let's go.
which is such a testament to like just, helping each other, right? Because they helped me, and then I'm now able to turn around and offer something to them, which I think is what the small business community does so well in Topeka. It's really one of the strengths. But Omni Circle Group, Compass Marketing is someone I'm working with. Cohort Digital, like I mentioned,
Cool, yeah.
They actually just put out a press release this morning about their new hire, Angie Grau, former owner of Paper June. But she's just joined the Cohort team, and so
cool.
they're definitely growing as an organization. Recently got to do some work with the Kansas Department of Commerce around the launch of their Kansas Small Business Office. So that was a really cool deal.
Yeah.
And just they are really trying to stand up some more resources and platforms to bring kind of the spectrum of resources across the state into one place. ConnectKS.info is that website. But it's going to be kind of one central platform, one central hub for small businesses to get better connected with resources more quickly. So that's some work I've been doing recently. Also got to work with some vendors at the Topeka Farmers Market.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so this summer is the 95th year of the Downtown Topeka Farmers Market.
Wow.
Yeah, which makes it the longest running open air market in Topeka.
Really?
And the largest open air market in Topeka as well. So, they have so many cool things. Saturday morning, they're running right now. I think it's 7:30 a.m. to noon roughly are their hours, but started in April, going through October.
And is that in that parking lot downtown?
Yeah, near I think 6th and Harrison are the cross streets there.
Yes.
But yeah, they have so many vendors out there. I mean, like everything from praline candy with Aonola pralines to Linda's African Creations she works with artists in Africa to really curate a selection of kind of fine jewelry and clothing and stuff like that she brings to the U.S. and shares with the Kansas audience.
Cool.
So some really cool stuff there. Food trucks like La Crepe Rico.
Have you been to the downtown?
I've actually never been. My wife and kids have gone a bunch of times, but I've never personally been.
You gotta go.
I know, I've heard it sounds awesome.
I've never been either, and that's really sad from two guys who have a Topeka podcast that we haven't been to
You gotta go. There's a hidden gem right there.
I know.
Yeah, there you go.
So
no kidding.
Yeah, and you can go, get your coffee from Grounded on the Go, get a crepe from the Crepe Rico or one of the other vendors.
How many? That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
What is it? It's H&A sourdough.
The eggs are actually a very decent price down there compared to your store-bought eggs.
One of my buddies sells the sourdough bread down there. So yeah, he's always doing that.
Nice. It's one of those.
I mean, it's definitely more than vegetables. I think we think farmers market and we think just produce, but it's so much more than that. I mean, you've got crafts, you've got fresh baked goods, like you said.
Right.
You've got food trucks, you've got coffee carts, you've got just so many different things. Fresh flowers, so
feels like
you can
a
get your wife a
dangerous
bouquet.
place for me to go and spend a lot of money.
Yeah. So what are the hours on it again?
I think it's 7:30 to noon.
Okay.
Roughly every Saturday now through October.
Wow. That's
so check
awesome.
that out. So Downtown Topeka Farmers Market was a great client. And I'm specifically working with a few of the vendors. But then another one that I want to mention recently, they did an open house not too long ago, is Trident Homes. And they are doing some amazing things because they are actually bringing the first 3D printed housing to Topeka. And I know that sounds wild. I know that sounds crazy.
Wild. Yeah.
And you might have this image in your head of like this flimsy plastic, 3D printed item. And that is not what this is
or
at all.
Or a giant printer.
Right? Yeah,
But before we get into that, if you've been thinking about relocating to Topeka, Topeka might actually pay you to move. Not even kidding.
That's right. You could get up to $15,000 to move to Shawnee County. Check it out at choosetopeka.com.
They print these homes out of concrete, so it's actually more fire resistant than your typical home. It can withstand an F4 tornado.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. And they, like I said, this is new technology to the Topeka market, but they had a lot of interest at their open house, and people really seemed to be, intrigued by what they were here to offer. And so they're printing their first model home this summer, and then hoping to introduce that officially to the Topeka market by late summer, I think by August. So
how do they print a home?
Yeah, so it's actually printed under this giant climate controlled tent. And it's a giant printing machine, like you mentioned.
Is it one giant piece of concrete? It's not like they don't 3D print concrete blocks and then build it. It's all printed.
Yeah, so it's not like blocks, but they basically print the foundation, right?
Okay.
So that's, which is typical to your typical foundation. And the 3D printing is really designed to replace the framing of the home. So, we've gotten the question too, is this going to replace jobs? not the case, because you still need someone to man the printer. But then you still need the window installers, you still need the carpenters, you still need the roofers and all. And it, because these homes can actually be printed much faster than your typical home, it could actually create more jobs in the long run and help address the housing shortage in the Topeka area.
Wow.
But to your question about like, what does that look like to actually print it? They do. So just like your typical 3D printer, they do kind of build it in layers. And it's just this giant machine that spits out concrete instead of like a different resin type material.
Right.
And it literally just kind of like prints in layers around
So it's like a
the
big
outside of the
CNC
home.
thing that just goes like a big
Yeah,
Riz
basically.
thing.
It's just a big blown up
Wow.
version.
That's
But
crazy.
3dhomebuilder.com, check them out.
Wow.
So they've been a great client as well.
Yeah, that was quite the buzz in the real estate world when that was announced, because they put out it's called a phantom listing, where it's not built yet, but they have a rendering of what it's going to look like. And so it hit the market and everyone was like, it's here.
Yeah.
Wow.
The 3D homes
That's wild.
are here.
Is
And
that
so-
happening
amazing.
around the nation?
Yeah, it's happening around the nation. I know one of the owners, or a very part owner, because they have a lot of investors who are doing
Okay.
it. And it's interesting.
In the
Yeah.
company building it?
Yeah, and it's very interesting. There's a lot of skepticism right now that I think they're doing more PR.
Right.
It's becoming more and more like, okay, this is happening.
Yeah.
They are doing this in other places. This is not crazy. And
Yeah.
just the more that it's kind of nice that there aren't homes built yet, because it's kind of allowing the word to get out and
Yeah.
misconceptions to be able to kind of fizzle and things to kind of get clarified. And then
People
they're
can
building
kind of emotionally come to terms with it.
to
Right.
terms like, hey, this is
Yeah.
a thing. This is
And
not
that's
weird.
so important, right?
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like building that trust and
Yeah.
building that continuity between like, okay, this is what I have in my head for what a traditional house looks
Right.
like. How does this jive with that image?
Absolutely.
You know?
Because I think if they were trying to sell one right now, or when it was announced, that when they put the listing out, I think if they tried to sell one right then they had one, I think it would have had a difficult time.
Yeah,
because
you're
no
probably
one
right.
had any idea how this was going to work,
Yeah.
Right.
what these were. I mean, I know back then if I had a client who said, hey, I want to go buy that home, I'd be like, let's not.
Right. Just 'cause we don't know anything about
Right,
it.
I don't know
right?
anything about it. It's
Yeah.
like, I'm not going to advise you on this
Yeah.
product that I don't know if it's going to be great, but it's starting to come around. People are there's more buzz, more articles, more talking about it. So I think it's nice that
Yeah,
it's kind of
and the
taken
price
some
range
time.
you're looking at there too is like 150,000 to 250,000.
Yeah,
which,
right where we
I
need
mean,
it.
very reasonably priced. And they're actually up to 70% more energy efficient as well than your
Wow.
typical home. So like you're gonna have savings in the long
Wow.
run too.
You said 70%.
70% more
Wow.
efficient. Yep.
That's
so
crazy.
some amazing thing there. And one other client I do want to mention too is Sole Reason. They actually provide new footwear to children in need in the Topeka community as
Wow.
well. So those are just
That's
kind of a
cool.
sample
Yeah.
of the different clients I've gotten to serve so far.
How many clients can you take on?
I'm still figuring that out.
Yeah.
To be
The
determined.
verdict
What
is
is the
out.
capacity
Yeah.
to be determined?
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. We only ask the hard-hitting questions. on Topeka
Sure.
Insider. But you might have some actual good insight. With ChatGPT and AI coming out, do you feel like that's a threat to your business, and like people are just going to try and do this stuff themselves, or do you think that's actually helpful for you? I'm sure you're familiar and you use it in your
Yeah.
stuff, but
No.
walk us through some of that.
Yeah, that is a great question. And, as someone with a writing background, it has taken some time for me to get more
Yeah.
comfortable with ChatGPT and AI in general. I'll be very honest with that, because I take a lot of pride in my writing.
Right,
And,
right.
I'm so intentional with every word
Yeah.
I write. And it paints this picture, it tells a story. And so it's an art form.
Yeah.
And I hate for that to get lost with AI. But
All
at
these
the
people
same
are
time,
cheating.
right. But I have become more comfortable with it. I really have, and I am using it for myself in some different ways. And I'll say too, I know like some people will use chat to write a quick press release, and they don't feel like they need a professional like me. And if that's how you want to go about it, that's okay. I will say you should never let the chat produced press release be your final version of the
Yes.
press release.
Right. Without some human.
Yeah, like some human
Touch-ups.
finagling
Yeah,
and some touch-ups
exactly.
here and there,
Yeah.
because it reads like a robot
Yeah,
at the end of the
exactly.
day. And I will say too, part of why I do what I do is to take to free up business owners' time. So if
Yep.
you want to do that for free and try to put it out there, no shame. Do what you got to do.
Right.
You got limited resources. You got to put those to the best use. I get it. because I'm a small business owner too, and it does cost for that kind of thing. But if you want someone who's going to, operate with a certain level of professionalism and actually free you up to do what you do best and take some of that PR, mess off your plate, if that's how you feel about it, that's really when you hire a PR professional to come in.
And I bet it's made you immensely better at your job because you get to take what you're already good at and it gets to help you make it better.
Absolutely.
I was listening to Cody Foster's podcast. He's got it's called The Business of Advice. Interviews all sorts of top producers across the country and all different kinds of industries.
But it's not as good as this one.
There's no doubt it's not as good as this one. If he's lucky, we'll ask him to come on.
Have you had him on yet?
No.
I think we need a little podcast duel.
We're working out the kinks and we're going to make this.
He's not ready for it yet.
Once he gets the mall figured out, then he's no. But
you should interview him in the mall once he figured it out.
That'd be sweet.
That'd be cool.
But he had someone on talking about AI, and the big takeaway I had from the whole episode is AI is going to bring these low producers up to mid to above average.
Yeah.
It's going to, it takes someone who doesn't have any skills in writing and they're going to be above average because of AI. But it's going to take someone who is already above average and it's going to put them through the roof.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so there's still going to be a massive separation that it's not that we're all, and I think especially in the copywriting world where it's so apparent that it's not going to water down and everyone's now going to be the same and there's no use for copywriters or PR. It's going to take your work and it's going to make it even better.
Yeah.
And so now you're left with the robot versus,
Yeah. And sometimes I will do a first draft of a press release using AI.
Yeah.
But I make so many changes, update the quotes to make it sound more human. Like it's not even close to the final
take
product.
out all the dashes.
Right.
And emojis.
But sometimes, the emojis have no place in a press release.
Lines, dashes, emojis galore.
Yeah. And I will say too, one cool thing I realized fairly recently is that AI can help me with my reporting too. So when I'm reporting back to a client on, this is where all you appeared as far as article goes, this is kind of the estimated reach of those articles and videos. It's been really helpful for that because it can comb the entire internet and say, okay, here's all the times your client was mentioned. And that does make me a lot more efficient on that side
it's so
of things.
helpful.
Yeah, because I could be digging for hours just looking for all the stories.
So it sounds like ChatGPT's PR firm won you over.
I guess so, a little bit. Yeah.
Your connection, the trust that you have with ChatGPT.
Stop it, John. Stop it.
Yeah.
And I even
I love ChatGPT. I think it's awesome.
It has become helpful, and like I said, I've warmed up to it. I've gotten over that hump of like, what is this? Is this trying to replace me? Like I'm over that by now.
Yeah.
But
should I feel threatened by this? What is happening?
Right. I recently had the opportunity to attend the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, which is this international conference, all about entrepreneurship, put on by the Global Entrepreneurship Network. But Kansas Commerce actually took a 50-member delegation to that conference at the beginning of the month in Indianapolis. And the keynote kind of fireside chat for that was Mark Cuban. And so I got to hear from him.
Wow.
And he talked a lot about AI and its power as well. And just, part of his message was kind of like, if you are not using AI, you're already behind.
Wow.
And so I think that's something to keep in mind too.
Yeah.
If we're not willing to open ourselves up to new technology, because that's ultimately what that is, then we're going to fall behind. And that, you have to be sure that you're using it ethically and using it in a smart way.
Sure.
But if you're not willing to explore new technology and adopt new technology, then you're not going to evolve as a business owner and as a professional.
Mark Cuban. There's a lot of people who binge Netflix shows, and I'm one of them. But I binge Shark Tank like none other.
Yep.
You would. That checks out.
Yeah, I know. And my wife makes so much fun of me. She goes on a walk or whatever, and she comes back, and I'm like in the middle of a Shark Tank episode. She goes, "What are you doing?" But yeah, I see Cuban's ads with Gemini all the time. He's a big AI guy, and he always talks
invested
about
in Gemini.
I don't know because I don't know, but Gemini
Gemini's Google, right?
Gemini's Google, so I would. I mean,
well, and Gemini does a really cool thing where it can do an audio summary of like if you have notes or a press release or just a variety of documents with information in it. They can do an audio summary of that information, and it sounds so conversational, almost like a podcast that makes it super easy to listen to. So that's kind of a cool feature of Gemini.
Yeah, stuff like that I think is really helpful, like where it saves you time that is like, this is busy work.
Yeah.
I don't really want to have to do this. I have found personally with the way I use it, and just seeing other things, like to kind of the question that you were bringing up of like, does this flatten the curve, kind of the difference between really skilled people, or is it keep? And I found that it really is, it's in some ways it's like a mirror to whoever uses it, you know, like it's not going to take an amateur and make you a professional,
right?
You know, or it's not going to take someone with no creativity and create creativity,
right?
Like, but it'll take someone with great creativity and it'll amplify that creativity that someone has. And so even the way that, like, even like just what you're asking for oftentimes is really the difference. It can't like, hey, start this business and make me a lot of money. Like you can't do that.
Like you still got to do the work.
You got to do it. You got to like have the spark and the idea and like, what are you even asking for? You know,
but that input, the prompt is so important. And that's what I found too. You know, like if I'm not prompting it well, what I get out is not going to be a good, final result. But if I am like very intentional with the prompt and giving it all this information and maybe uploading a couple of documents to support that information, like what it spits out is going to be pretty comprehensive.
Right.
Yeah. If you use it more as a think tank and less of a give me the answer.
Right. And like someone to bounce ideas off of.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've done, so I preach almost every Sunday here at this church. And a few times I've been like, hey, write me a sermon on this. And it's generally trash. Like, it's just like, this is so boring. Like, I wouldn't listen to someone saying this, you know.
That's not even a funny joke.
And so, but what I'll use it to help me, like, I'll use it as like a research assistant. So like, hey, I'm looking for stories or examples of this in history or whatever. Help me find examples of this. And then I'll comb through the results to find the one that I think is the most helpful, you know, or, you know, hey, like for instance, in the Bible, like, hey, help me find everywhere the Bible says something about this, you know? And so I'm not personally having to like, you know, and so it really saves so much time, but then frees up my thoughts to be creative, you know? So it like frees up, because I think so much of like creativity gets lost in like decision fatigue.
Yes.
You know,
oh my gosh.
where like you're spending, especially if it's like, if you're the owner of your business, you have so many small decisions you have to make every day.
It makes
all
deciding
day.
what to eat for dinner horrible.
Oh, exactly.
I get to the end of my day and I'm like, I don't want to think about it.
Oh, exactly. I know. I feel bad sometimes. I've tried to get better at this, but my wife the same. She's like, what do you want to do for dinner? I was like, I don't care. Just like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, like that's probably maybe not helpful, you know, for her, but or different decisions. It's the same way, but I think so much of creativity gets lost in like, I have no mental energy left for really what is the most important part of what is like the role only I can do.
Yeah. And you mentioned busy work a minute ago. Like it really does replace that, which is, or at least like speeds that up, which is so valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true.
Like time really is everything.
Let's go.
You know?
Yeah.
Changing gears, maybe to more of Topeka. Now, you've been here for 6 years. We talked about some hidden gems. What is something, and we usually save this for the end, but it feels like you've seen a lot, so you might have some answers. What is something you think maybe Topeka's missing?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I will say
more 3D printed homes.
Right. I am going to be so ready when Olive Cafe reopens eventually, their restaurant, because I really enjoy Mediterranean food. And we're kind of at a loss for that right now without Olive Cafe.
What happened?
Gosh. You know, I think it maybe had something to do with just that location and the limited parking, and he was wanting to kind of move to a spot that had some better parking options and stuff like that.
Because that place was fire. Yeah, we went there a bunch of times.
So I will say Mediterranean food. Yeah, you know,
more
but hopefully,
do you have a Mediterranean food around here that you eat when they're closed?
Not really.
So you're just like,
because you would have to go all the way to either Lawrence or Kansas City.
That's kind of what I was saying.
Right, what do you got? Mad Greek or something?
Yeah. Gosh, what else? I mean, I would love to see some more like activity-oriented things geared towards adults. You know, I'm trying to figure out what that is exactly, but that would be something. I will say we're upping our game in like event space, but I've also been to some events recently where I'm like, oh, this is at another level, and I don't know if we have a place in Topeka that could truly do that.
Right.
So that's kind of on my mind right now, but that's not necessarily like.
Like events like concerts, like what kind of events?
I mean, definitely some more concerts that speak to like a Gen Z kind of audience. I mean, I don't know if people know this, but I'm the first year of Gen Z actually. So
are you really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you're the elder Gen Z.
I'm an elder Gen Z.
Wow.
Yeah. Are
right.
you guys millennials?
I'm a millennial.
I'm a
Yeah.
Gen Z.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gen Z as well. Yeah. Okay. Elder millennial.
And what's that?
I mean, sorry, elder Gen Z,
Yeah.
not millennial.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the first year Gen Z?
97, I believe.
Okay. I'm a 98.
Okay.
So.
Okay. We're right there on that cusp.
Yeah. I don't know what I'd rather be lumped in with, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know,
I was going to say some things I relate to Gen Z more and some things I relate to millennials more.
Yeah.
Because you're just
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So event space.
Wait, so 97
Event
is the
space,
first
more
year of Gen
activities.
Z?
Yeah. I mean, and
Really?
some calendars will have it slightly different.
Right, yeah.
But I like claiming that.
Yeah, the
Because
first.
people don't
I'm the
expect
first
it.
Gen Z. Yeah, I paved the way
There's
for
this
you guys.
theme there, isn't there?
Yeah,
First PR firm, first Gen Z.
yeah.
So, but yeah, I think some more like fun activities geared towards kind of that young adult audience would be really nice. I mean, I cannot wait to see what the mall does because I think that's
gonna be
going to
so
fill some
sweet.
gaps in the
Yeah.
market. I would love to see a Trader Joe's in Topeka.
I've
on
heard that's in the works.
Okay, fingers crossed. Because every once in a while, I will drive to Kansas City just to go to Trader Joe's.
Yeah.
Someone told me it's coming to the mall.
Yeah. So I heard it's coming to the mall.
Okay.
Yeah.
that
That has not
happens.
been confirmed.
Right.
And this is not what
Can
that
neither
is.
confirm
but-
nor deny. But
This is the only reason we'll have Cody on the
Trader
podcast.
Joe's, if you're
to talk about
listening.
Trader Joe's
Confirm
in the
or
mall.
deny.
right.
I'm sick of going to Dillon's.
Right. So I would love to see maybe some stores like that are
Yeah.
just that
Yeah.
you can only find in Kansas City.
Right.
I think Topeka deserves that. Like
Yeah.
and also like this isn't a thing necessarily or like a place, but like I want to see Topekans believe in themselves more. Because I think that, like, if we can believe in ourselves and believe that we deserve this, we deserve to have these good things, we can build something great, like, that's how we're going to manifest it. When we start to believe that, like, Topeka can handle this. Topeka
Right.
needs this and
Yeah.
wants it, And
Yeah.
when the people can really come to that conclusion, I think we're really going to be onto something.
That is a
Yeah.
great thought. Because I'm sitting here thinking right now, like, do we deserve a Trader Joe's? Like, should we have
Yeah,
one
we
of
do.
those? Do we really need a Lululemon? It's like, yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Like that place would stay. I know my wife would keep that place in business. Gosh, my pocket would be empty if we had a Lululemon in Topeka.
Yeah, totally unrelated. Justin really needs to sell a house right now.
Yeah,
So,
no kidding. My next commission check is already spent by that woman.
dude, you know what we do need more? We need more brunch places.
Oh, yeah.
There's one that just opened up by the lake over on the east side. We need more brunch spots
Yeah.
like Lawrence.
and like very vibey spots, too.
Yeah. There's so like you can there's one every 100 feet in Lawrence. Like man, we
Yeah.
need some good brunch spots and I like not like IHOP.
Right.
Like
First Watch just opened up.
First Watch
Yeah,
is great.
that's true.
Yeah,
First Watch.
I've been there several
I'm
times.
going to be hard pressed to ever go to First Watch because Big Biscuit's just right down the way.
Honestly, Big Biscuit to me is like an IHOP.
What?
It is.
Are you kidding
It is
me?
the same as IHOP.
No way.
Yeah.
That
No.
is the most preposterous thing you've said on
Okay,
this
I'll
podcast.
say
That's so
that
funny.
it's like a baby step above
Oh
IHOP.
my
Yeah.
gosh. And you probably think El Mez is in line with Taco Bell.
LOL. That's hilarious. No, I would say the exact opposite of that.
Unbelievable. Big Biscuit is head and shoulders
No,
above IHOP.
to me, this would be like you thinking Taco John's is different than Taco Bell. Like it's the same. It's exactly the same.
Get out of here.
It's
That's funny.
it's a cheap chain that goes around the nation.
Do you wanna
making
chime in?
breakfast places?
I mean, I love some authentic Mexican food, so I'm going to point to our taco trucks if we're talking Mexican.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
K Tacos over on 6th, El Guiteron over on the California exit. Like
Right, yeah,
we have
yeah.
some amazing taco trucks
Yeah.
in the area.
Yeah.
So
I also love El Mez. Like I'm not
Yeah.
a hater on El Mez.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, when I think of brunch, I'm not thinking of Big Biscuit. I'm thinking of like
you're thinking of like non-chain too. Is
non-chain.
that That's what I'm hearing.
The one we just talked about that just dropped. What did we just say?
First Watch?
First Watch is kind of a chain, but it's sort of a local chain, right?
I don't know.
There's like
Whatever
one
you
in
have to say
Lawrence.
to
I honestly
justify
hadn't
it.
heard
There's
of
one in
First Watch
Lawrence
before it came here.
But like, yeah, I don't know.
As someone
Yeah.
who
That's all
eats
I'll
a
say.
lot of food, I can tell you Big Biscuit slaps.
But truly some locally owned, one of a kind,
Yeah.
very just like experience oriented.
Right.
I agree.
restaurants
Big Biscuit's
and-
not
and
that. But the
brunch
fact that you
spots.
just compared it to IHOP.
Big Biscuit to me is like Applebee's.
Just get over
How is it different from Applebee's?
We've got a fight on the
way
set.
breakfast
better than
Applebee's.
I don't even
How
know.
is Big Biscuit not the breakfast Applebee's?
It's just way different, and you know it, and you're just being difficult right now.
Justin has shifted
All
his
right,
body
moving
language.
on. Moving on.
Gabe, you want to jump in here? How is Big Biscuit not just breakfast Applebee's?
John, there's the door.
Yeah, that's right.
I own this
Get
room.
outta here.
You can leave that door.
Yeah, unbelievable. All right, moving on. Moving
You
on.
didn't actually counter anything I said.
No, Big Biscuit. Okay, like Justin was saying, Big Biscuit absolutely slaps.
Oh my God. Well, it's-
I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just saying it's not the type. It's how no one has disagreed with what I said, that it's the breakfast of Applebee's. No one has disagreed with
Fine,
me.
let me vocalize it.
So
I
you can say, hey, Applebee's slaps. It's still Applebee's. You're not disagreeing that it's Applebee's.
To take us off this slightly, but
Please
still
do.
on the food and drink kind of topic.
Please do.
One thing, so on the last inner city visit when we went to Boise, one of the things we experienced there was this food hall of all local businesses, and that is something I would love to see Topeka have.
Okay,
yeah.
what do you
A
mean by
food hall. So there, it's I mean, a lot like a food court, but it's just all one building dedicated to this food hall.
Right.
And you've got all local small businesses in the different, storefronts and booths and whatnot. But there's just like open common seating area between them all. So you
Yeah.
could, maybe you show up with your friends and you say, well, I'm in the mood for this, so I'm going to go over here. You're in the mood for that. You go over there, and then we'll meet back up and get a table in the middle,
Right.
kind of
Is
thing.
it like it's not a permanent spot for these small businesses, but it's like a pop up, like, hey, they're going to be at the food hall?
Well, I've kind of seen it. It's like, I wouldn't say permanent, but like not pop up either. Like it's kind
Yeah.
of like a short term
So
stay.
like
you
I
might
went to a
stay there
place
for-
similar to that. I
Yeah.
think in Colorado Springs, there's this
Okay.
old school called Ivy Wild or something like that, and it's like an actual old like prep high school looking building, but it's not a school. And in place in all the classrooms are restaurants. And it's the same idea. There's a common seating area,
Yeah.
and then you can go, but it's like all local restaurants. So you can get like local pizza, Mexican food. There's like
Yeah.
a brewery in one section of the school.
That's cool.
And yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
We loved it.
Well, and it's like, to answer your question, like they're probably like businesses that are there for maybe like a couple years or something until they grow out of it. So it's
Sure.
like, it's a
Yeah,
great
yeah,
like
yeah.
starter spot, for a lot of
Yeah.
places that maybe like can't afford their full own restaurant yet, but
Yep.
but want to like be out in the public, want to be serving people in that way.
That's a
And I
great
thought of
idea.
another restaurant too. We need a great Vietnamese spot as well.
Okay.
I really enjoy some Vietnamese food.
What's the Saigon?
Saigon.
Have you
Are
been
they
to
still
Saigon?
open? I have
I
gotten food
believe
there.
they are. Their
I've gotten
hours are
takeout.
kind of funky sometimes, but yeah, my wife loves the pho there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's very
And I
good.
hear Four Guys is opening back up downtown as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Great
nice.
pho as well.
Well, do we want to hit her with some rapid fire?
I don't know. I kind of want to keep this hot take rolling. I don't know.
I'm sick of you.
I have one. I don't think it's a hot take, but
We'll be the judge of that.
right.
You better be
I think
careful.
it's a
You
really
saw
great
how I
take,
reacted.
actually. But so I'm a public radio, public radio kind of listener, and I also watch PBS NewsHour, and was listening to a PBS program over the weekend. And they shared this statistic from a study that says, you may think I'm going way off the rails by bringing this up, but I think it's
You're good.
relevant
Go for
to
it.
community development. But they referenced a study, and in 2023, American adults spent $11 billion with a B on doomsday preparation.
Really?
And I know you're
Okay.
like, what are you saying? This is left
That's
field.
your generation.
But
I think it's a few generations older than me.
but $11 billion on doomsday preparation. And the thought I had after seeing that was, can you imagine if we spent that kind of money and pouring it back into our own communities, to really create spaces and communities and regions where people don't feel the need to run, they don't feel the need to prep for the end, and truly are present and community oriented and giving back and serving others. Just, imagine what we could do if that were more normalized.
Right.
So that may seem like it's coming out of left field, but
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's
I mean,
relevant to creating some of
It
these things
does.
we're talking
It does
about.
foster local businesses. If I hire a local construction company to build my bunker, I mean that's giving back to the local economy.
I mean,
I guess.
No,
not where I was
that's
going
awesome.
with that, but fair.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I love that. That's fun. It's not exactly what you're talking about, but there's a very small version of have you guys been to that gas station in Lawrence that always has a little tiny restaurant on the side? inside. It's inside the gas station. Several restaurants have gotten their start inside of this gas station.
That's cool.
And then launched out. So there's one on Mass, and I'm blanking. It's a Mediterranean place. I'm trying to remember what it's called. But it started in the side of this gas station on 6th and
Wow.
I don't know, 6th and Lawrence or Monterey or something like that. But yeah, no, never heard of it.
Nope.
At one point, they had this chicken restaurant. They would do fried chicken sandwiches, and it would be fried chicken with a donut as the bun.
I feel like I've seen that
I've
before.
seen that.
But it
Yeah.
might have been on TikTok, so I don't know.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think I
Local
saw it on
spot.
Shark Tank.
Of course you did. Yeah. Anyway, rapid fire. So,
right.
do you have a favorite coffee place?
Oh, that's I mean, Circle Coffee is such a good one. I also really enjoy Blackbird over.
Yeah.
That's near
Yeah,
where I live,
Blackbird's
but over by
great.
Gage Park.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, those are great.
Do you golf?
I have golfed before, but I wouldn't say I golf. You know what I
All
mean?
right. Do you have a favorite golf course?
The only one I've actually played at is Cypress Ridge.
All right. There we
Yeah.
go. Cypress Ridge.
Yep.
Cypress Fires. Yeah.
You want to ask her the hottest of the hottest takes question?
Actually, let me rescind that. T-Box is my favorite
There
golf
we
course.
go.
Oh, okay, let's go.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, that is a great
That is
answer.
a great answer. All right. You're doing a home project.
Okay.
You have to go and get some supplies.
Okay.
Lowe's, Home Depot, Menards. Where are you going?
Oh my gosh. Okay, fun fact, the first time I went to a Menards was here in Topeka. Like I had not been to Menards before moving to the Midwest. So naturally that's not the first one I think of. That's just my little caveat.
Bummer.
I feel like I grew up going to Lowe's, which is probably the least like interesting of those, but I grew up going to Lowe's.
That is the most neutral of the three
that's
options
fine.
in this room.
Anything but Home Depot.
What's wrong with Home Depot?
Nothing.
We just have a feud. I will say, I shouldn't say this on record, but so this is being recorded the Monday after Father's Day for, I don't know when this will release, but my wife got my Father's Day gift at Menards.
Absolutely she
And
did.
I immediately,
You
I
know
was
why?
like,
Because it just makes sense.
I know, I was like broken. I was like, you can never tell anyone this. You cannot tell Justin
Oh my
that
gosh.
this is where you got this. And it was a great gift. It was a great gift. It was definitely like something that Home Depot wouldn't sell. You know? So
Funny.
it's like, that
you're
makes
you're a
sense.
doer, aren't you?
I am.
Where doers get more done.
That's exactly it. Yeah. That's exactly.
I will say the first time I went into a Menards, I was very impressed. I was like, they have all of this in one roof.
absolutely.
Like,
cereal and
I was like, I can get my food, do my grocery
Exactly.
shopping, and my home improvement.
You're going out for a date night. Where do you want to go?
Ooh. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I love a hole in the wall casual date night.
Okay.
So like, boyfriend and I recently did like taco night. Like that was a lot of fun.
Let's go.
But I do enjoy like Jong's Thai is a good
Yep.
one if you can get a
Yeah.
reservation far
Right.
enough in advance. Yeah, I'll stick with that.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Dessert place?
Ooh. I really enjoy the carrot cake at Blackbird. Have you ever
Yeah.
had it? It's
I
really
think
good.
I have had the carrot cake.
I've never
I love
had
carrot
it,
cake.
but
Yeah.
Yeah, carrot cake is so good.
That's a unique answer. I like that.
That is a very unique answer. Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
What else we got?
I feel like at some point we're going to have to add like, instead of golf course, like which is your favorite pickleball courts?
yeah.
Because they're
I've
adding
actually
so
never
many.
played
Absolutely.
pickleball before.
Oh, yeah?
I'm probably
Okay.
really in the minority there, but
It's
Never
Yeah, I was
played.
going to say Urish or Orleans.
I've
She doesn't
never
play
played pickleball.
That's what oh, yeah, that's true. But we're going to have to add that. That's
Yeah.
a good one. That's a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
That's a good
Okay.
one.
What else we got?
Another date night spot, Topeka Civic Theater.
All right.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Love a local play.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Potholes. How many
Love
did you
it.
hit on the way over here?
Okay, so having gone to college in New Orleans, when I hear people complain about potholes, I'm like, go drive in New Orleans.
All
like,
right.
It will take your bumper off. Like,
Okay.
I'm not
Dang.
kidding.
Topeka's got it
Because
good.
So
of like the salt water nearby
Well,
or
I
what?
think it does.
Like,
I mean, New Orleans is below sea level, like the
Right.
entire city.
Yeah.
And so I think that does have something to do with it. I think, don't quote me on this, I may be totally off base here, but I think also their funding for roads has not always
Sure.
been consistent over the years.
Yeah.
But the potholes are something else.
People in
New
Topeka
Orleans.
just need to quit complaining.
That's my take.
Yeah. They don't have it as bad as they think they do.
I heard it's
all
because
about
of
perspective.
I heard it's all because of all the doomsday preppers building bunkers.
Yeah.
And they're ruining the ground.
You need to get
causing-
your
yeah.
generation in line.
I think the New
all the
Orleanians
millennials who can't afford a home, I don't think they're building bunkers.
No, the New Orleanians are drinking instead of building the doomsday
There it is.
bunkers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard about Cinco de Mayo several years back, there was a sinkhole on Canal Street, and instead of addressing it immediately, they called it Cinco de Mayo and threw a party around it.
Sinkhole de Mayo. That is hilarious.
So that's how they turned that around.
Now they had a great PR firm.
They did.
They spun that.
That
They spun
Sinkhole's PR firm was top notch.
Oh, that's awesome. Man, is there any question you wish we would have asked you?
Oh my gosh. Is there? I don't think so.
And if
you guys
not,
covered it.
where can people find you at?
Yes. So people can find my business at localinspr.com.
Yep.
I am on Facebook as, India Yarborough and as Local Ins PR, Local Ins PR on Instagram, on LinkedIn. I also office out of Omni Circle Group. So come find me there, pop in, come say hi.
Wait,
get
so
a tour.
as an elder Gen Z, you're not on TikTok?
No, I mean, I have a TikTok account, but I've never posted to it before. So I just discreetly watch from the background.
Yeah.
As an elder Gen Z, what's the primary social media you're personally using?
Honestly, the past year, I feel like I've been kind of reeling back a little bit from social media. If it's not for business type stuff.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah. It can be such an attention suck. And honestly, I think it increases our anxiety and increases these feelings of restlessness.
So true.
And that's not what I need in my life right now.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
Love it. Cool. India, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having
pleasure.
me.
Great.
This was
Thank you
awesome.
so much.
Even if there were some feuds in the mix, still a great time.
We'll figure it out off air. Sick of this guy.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.